if I am not on this committee for one term. My voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been.
You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. There are a lot more important issues in front of the United States Congress and the American people than who tweets what to whom. If you're not happy living in America, leave. It's a free country, and I agree with that assessment.
Welcome back to the channel, everyone. You just watched that opening clip featuring Senator John Kennedy, and once again, he did what very few people in Washington still know how to do: cut straight through the noise. There was no hesitation, no political doublespeak. He directly called out the group commonly known as the Squad, naming Ilhan Omar, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Presley, and accusing them of behaving in ways completely disconnected from everyday Americans. What makes Kennedy stand out is his ability to use plain, common-sense language to highlight what many people across the country are already feeling. This exchange perfectly captures why frustration with Washington is at an all-time high. On one side, you see a senator defending what he believes are the foundational values of the United States. On the other, a group of lawmakers who often appear more focused on criticizing America than improving it. To many viewers, it feels like these politicians operate as a unified bloc dedicated to pointing out America's flaws rather than strengthening the nation they were elected to serve. Kennedy's argument centers on a growing disconnect. Individuals holding immense power while openly questioning or condemning the country's origins and character. To him, that contradiction turns serious governance into political theater. What resonates with many Americans is his refusal to engage in what they see as performative outrage. Instead, he calls it out directly. In this video, we're going to break down the full exchange and explain why Kennedy believes consequences are finally catching up to this behavior. And before we go any further, if you're tired of political games and appreciate straightforward commentary, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and turn on notifications. Now let's get into it.
There are a lot more important issues in front of the United States Congress and the American people than who tweets what to whom. So let me say it one more time. I thought in the president's original tweet, I thought it was a poor choice of words. I think I know what the president meant, and he clarified later and said, look, if you're not happy in America, leave. Just leave, and I agree with that. But his original articulation of that concept, in my opinion, fell short of the mark. Number two, frankly, I don't know why the president felt the need to tweet on this subject at all. You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. You know, when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe. And that's kind of where I am on the subject. The president has explained his position. He has said, look, here's what I meant. If you're not happy living in America, leave. It's a free country, and I agree with that assessment.
If I am not on this committee for one term, my voice will get louder and stronger, and my leadership will be celebrated around the world as it has been.
Today's resolution, as it relates to Representative Omar, details 6 statements she made as a sitting member of Congress that under the totality of the circumstances disqualify her from serving on the Committee on Foreign Affairs.
Don't tell me this is about consistency. Don't tell me that this is about a condemnation of anti-Semitic remarks when you have a member of the Republican caucus who has talked about Jewish space lasers and an entire amount of tropes, and also elevated her to some of the highest committee assignments in this body. This is about targeting women of color in the United States of America. Don't tell me, because I didn't get a single apology when my life was threatened.
The representative can say whatever the heck she wants, but we don't have to accept it or embrace it. Individuals who hold such hateful views should rightly be barred from that type of committee.
This institution is better because of her leadership, and the Foreign Affairs Committee benefits from her perspective. So let's talk about what's really happening. Republicans are waging a blatantly Islamophobic and racist attack on Congresswoman Omar. And I've said it before, I will say it again. The white supremacy happening is unbelievable. This is despicable.
We're not removing her from other committees. We just do not believe when it comes to foreign affairs, especially the responsibility of that position around the world with the comments that you make. She shouldn't serve there.
The gentlewoman is recognized. On which the eyes and...
After watching the full segment, it becomes even clearer why Senator Kennedy connects with so many people. He doesn't rely on scripted talking points or carefully tested messaging. He speaks plainly, in a way that feels familiar to everyday Americans. His central argument is simple but provocative, that the squad often speaks and acts as if they fundamentally resent the country they serve. He points to repeated statements suggesting that America was deeply flawed at its founding and remains morally broken today. That claim raises a serious question. How can someone effectively represent the United States on the world stage, particularly on the Foreign Affairs Committee, if they consistently frame the nation as a villain? Kennedy also addresses the controversial "if you don't like it, leave" argument, framing it not as hostility, but as a reflection of freedom. In his view, if someone genuinely believes America is irredeemably oppressive, it's fair to question why they are so determined to hold power within its institutions. To critics, it appears less like reform and more like dismantling from within. Public reaction reflects this frustration as well, with many commentators arguing that these views place the squad far outside the political mainstream, even within their own party. Kennedy's broader point is that extreme rhetoric ends up alienating regular voters and weakening institutions. When accountability arises, he argues, accusations of racism or bigotry are often used to deflect from documented statements rather than address them directly. He also highlights what critics see as selective silence on major historical moments, interpreting that absence as revealing priorities that don't align with the values they claim to champion. Ultimately, Kennedy frames the removal of Ilhan Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee as an institutional decision, not a personal attack. His analogy is straightforward. You wouldn't put someone who openly dislikes an organization in charge of representing it publicly. For many supporters, This moment serves as a reminder that there are still leaders willing to defend the country without apology. In their eyes, America is not a shameful experiment, but a nation that offers opportunity unlike anywhere else in the world. Kennedy's blunt approach may offend some, but to others, it represents a long overdue pushback against politics that feels more like performance than responsibility.